All right, man. So we're jumping into the summer of 2021, and there's so many anticipated albums expected to drop in the summertime, and we just got J.Cole's The Off Season. We're going to be getting so much more, and I mean, it's always fun to look back at what's already been teased and what's kind of more speculative, but we're in for a crazy summer and probably maybe the best year in hip-hop since 2018.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that hasn't dropped yet, and it's crazy because coronavirus has obviously slowed this all down. We've mentioned that too many times on the podcast, but I mean, it's just cool to see that people are more hyped to drop, and there's people that want to drop at this point because either their careers took a halt or they have to complete a discography and feed the fans. But guys, before we actually get into the episode, out of all these albums, which one are you going to be the most excited for? And we're going to go through the whole list, so this is going to be a top 10, more or less, but there's not going to actually be a ranking to it. And as Lucas said, a lot of this will be speculation, a lot of teases, a lot of people saying, okay, we're going to drop here, but none of this is actually confirmed. So going through this list, it's interesting because there's a lot of different artists, a lot of different sounds, and a lot of different sizes of artists. Like, you obviously have certain artists that are bigger than other ones, and you obviously have certain artists that dominate a certain genre or have their own lane. So, looking at the landscape of hip-hop for this year, the last 2 years were very, 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 very heavily reliant on the underground. Now it seems like a lot of big dogs are shaping up to form. So How do you like that, and how do you like this new come to form for a lot of guys that haven't dropped?
I love it, man, because I mean, the real voices of our generation are teasing to drop. We already got one of them, and now the question marks are around Drake Certified Lover Boy.
That's huge, man.
And people are wondering what the fuck happened to it, right?
And well, I'm wondering what the fuck happened to it because, I mean, if you look at the amount of teasing that's gone on, like he was supposed to drop this back in summer of 2020. He was then supposed to drop it in January of 2021. Then there was rumbles of it coming in April. That's what academics was saying. And now we're finally getting word that it's probably going to end up dropping in the summer. So do you believe it, and do you buy it?
I definitely buy it. I mean, I feel like at this point, he could only stretch it, for so long. And if you want my theory on it, I feel like Drake has been waiting for the other big dogs, especially, someone in the big three, to actually release an album beforehand. So he can kind of read the room, read the temperature, and see maybe if he has to elevate his own craft based on what someone like J. Cole did.
I know, because it's a difficult situation for Drake because he hasn't dropped since Scorpion. Scorpion got mixed reviews, and
do you feel like he's chasing a classic album here?
Definitely.
Yeah? Okay.
Most definitely. I think, like, especially with the reception that he had gotten off of Scorpion, where else is there to really go, right? I mean, at this point, like, you have to put a fucking Michael Jackson feature on your album. Like, I mean, where else could you go? You know what I'm trying to say? And that's where I'm kind of at with it, is like, I do want it, and I'm super hyped for it. Like, I think it's going to be absolute quality. But I mean, in his case, I think a lot of people will be let down just because I think there's too many high expectations around it.
Yeah, honestly, I disagree with you in the sense that I feel like he, stopped chasing that cohesive, kind of tight, classic type of, stature for an album a long time ago. And that was probably after the whole ghostwriter allegations came along, and where he started seeing, like, let me just make music that's a good collection. Look at More Life, for example. That's pretty much a playlist of amazing songs. And I feel like, ever since then, he's put out super long projects, and it's just been a collection of great music, and there's always been memorable moments that have come out of them. So I feel like that might be a similar sentiment here, where he's just trying to, make some vibes. And I just want Drake to be in his feelings.
I know, I get you, but I mean, if you look at something like Views that did happen after the whole ghostwriting allegation, he was definitely chasing a ring with that one, and he definitely did say it. I mean, if you look at Views, he even said it like, I was expecting that to be a classic, but people slept on it, and now they're calling it a classic. I mean, I think Drake is always in his bag and trying to find a way to make the next project that's going to shift the industry and that's going to be timeless with fans. But I mean, there's only so many places you could go. He's gone into Jamaican dancehall. I mean, he's gone into pop. He's gone into hip hop. He's gone into conscious rap. Like, the list goes on. I mean, I could stand here and sit for 3 fucking hours and talk about
the different lanes that he's gone into and whatever. But
the thing is like, as long as it sounds focused for me, I guarantee you Drake will drop a positive project, and it's going to sound fucking fantastic and super refreshing.
Honestly, I'm down for the Caribbean vibes, man. Get me on like some Controlla stuff. Get me on some Blem.
Passion fruit. I
want Drake to come in with that Jamaican accent and kind of just create that crazy.
Yeah, you like that?
I like those tropical vibes for the summer, man. It's summertime. I want to feel like I'm sitting on a beach listening to some Drake.
And
You
how
know
do
what
you
I
feel
mean?
about the whole thing about him switching his accents? I mean, you've heard him do the UK accents. I mean, there's the heavy Toronto slang accent that
Sometimes
goes
they
on.
work, sometimes they don't. I
And
mean,
where do you feel as if they work, and where do you feel as if they
definitely,
don't?
definitely the Caribbean accent. I'm a big fan of that. The UK stuff, not my thing, to be honest. The Toronto slang is always good. And yeah, I just feel like Drake is gonna come with some heat regardless of what direction he takes. But I feel like it will be a mixture of all his sounds just because of how many people he has to cater to at this point.
That is very true. But let's move on to another project. We're going to talk about Isaiah Rashad's "The House Is Burning." I mean, we did a review on the single, and we had talked about how he's going to be bringing in some new flavor and some new bounce. And I was talking to one of my boys, Mark. Shout out, Mark. He's from Los Angeles, and he was telling me that he had actually heard a very good portion of the project, and he said that this is going to be some of Zay's best. Like, he said, it was completely different than anything else that he's released, but it still sounds like Zay. So, I mean, that was what we were anticipating based on, the sort of Tennessee bounce that you had gotten out of Lay With Ya. So, do you think he's going to go in that direction, or do you think maybe it's going to be more of a cinematic production like he usually sets up?
What's interesting about Lay With Ya is the fact that I feel like usually with Isaiah Rashad, you get style and substance.
True.
But with that song, it was more substance based, and it felt like he was just vibing out, and it sounded like he was kind of drunk rapping, if you know what I mean.
I get you.
He was just locked into a certain style, and it was kind of very structured, I would say. So I feel like overall, he actually said this in the interview with Fader that this project's going to be more up tempo.
Fire.
And I like that because, I mean, after all this time, after 5 years of not getting an Isaiah project, I would like him to switch it up. I would like him to come in with something different, while sticking true to like that subject matter that's always, been a winning point of his music. But at this point, after 5 years of being absent, not many guys can do this, and that just speaks to his timeless discography with just 2 projects out. But do you feel like this is a make it or break it situation for him?
Definitely not. Isaiah Rashad.
So he can have a flop here, and he'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. It's different for me because the Sun's Tirade and Sylvia Demo are just such quality projects for me that I don't think it's like, okay, he delivers this and then boom, I'm never going to listen to Isaiah Rashad again. Like, I think he is so talented as an artist that regardless of the type of aesthetic that he's giving me, I'm okay with it. Like, I'm going to run with it, and it's definitely going to be in my rotation. Example, like, Lay With Ya has been in my rotation heavy. Like, I have bumped it really, 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 really often. And I like it because it's an Isaiah that I've never heard before. So I heard people's criticisms about it, like, oh, it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound focused. It doesn't sound... It's all bullshit. You know what I think it is? I think it's people are not used to it. And then after that, once people are going to get used to it and understand the type of quality he's going to put up, that's when they're going to start giving him his flowers. And I guarantee you this project will have quality.
Yeah, and he has so much to prove. I mean, he was considered the Bobby Brown of TDE just because, like, his alcohol addiction and his Xanax addiction got so bad that, like, he was in incidents where he was crashing top dogs like Honda Civic. He was getting into, like, some serious shit, and he was even broke at one point. He had spent all his money and he was literally at rock bottom. And now for him to be coming back in such a big way, I feel like, even with the title of The House Is Burning, I feel like this album is going to be him talking about his kind of second lease on life, if you know what I'm trying to say.
That is true.
I feel like he's probably a new man now. He's a father of 2 kids. I feel like this is going to be about him kind of putting all the money and all the wild shit that he's done in his life aside and really focusing on like the importance of family and kind of, give us more of a spiritual sense of where he's at in life.
That's going to be cool because especially if it's up tempo, it's going to be interesting to see how he fuses that sort of content matter with that sort of, production. And obviously you're probably going to see Kenny Beats on this. That's someone that's going to be heavy on this. And we didn't mention that in the review or in the previous episode, but I mean, that's someone I'm super down to see. He's been super consistent with his productions and we've seen what they're able to do in the past. So, I mean, even if we're to get the Cave Part 2 with, fucking Isaiah in there. They did a first version of the Cave, right? Where Isaiah went in?
I think so, yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but I mean...
But they do a lot of streams together. Like, they just did a stream for Kenny's birthday.
So, I mean, it would just be... It's cool to always see people lock in and come in with new content. But let's move on to actually a Florida, I would say, SoundCloud legend and Ski Mask. And I like Ski Mask because I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of his music, but the type of energy and sort of cadence that he brings onto an album is really fucking cool. And I think when it comes to a flow and locking into one flow. There's not a lot of guys that could do it like
Yeah.
him. So, if you're looking at this new project, what are you looking in for it, and how do you think it'll sound?
It's really interesting because, Ski Mask has been silent now for about 3 years, and it's totally understandable because he was grieving over the losses of his two best friends in X and Juice World. So, him taking that hiatus definitely makes sense, and I'm happy that now he's at a place where he wants to come back to making music. And he said that he's going to be dropping 3 projects this year. The first one he confirmed would be coming in June. So by the end of this month, we can expect a single or something. And I feel like Ski Mask, on his debut album Stokely, he kind of, he went into screamo rap, he went into, his usual sound, and also into some kind of like singing vibe, which I didn't fuck with at all. But what I love Ski Mask for is that, he's one of the most unique artists just for his flows. His flows are totally outlandish, and his bars are super witty, man. Like, I'll actually laugh my ass off reading through some of his bars.
He's a hilarious rapper.
Yeah, man. And that's something that makes him stand out from the rest, is that he doesn't take his music too seriously, and neither do I. That's what makes it enjoyable. Like, I'm not going into a Ski Mask album expecting to get an Illmatic.
That is true.
You know what I mean? So I'm always excited when he drops. I'm not personally a fan of his music. Like, you'll never probably catch me really listening to Ski Mask in my car or anything, but whenever he drops, I do get excited. I do listen to the projects, and I'm hyped for this one.
I am hyped for this one, and it's going to be different because, it's 3 years he's silent. There's probably a lot of shit that's going on in his life and that we're probably going to hear throughout the music. So who knows? Maybe we could get a project that's more focused and that's going to probably end up having serious content matter. Regardless, if he goes with that direction, I'd like it. If he goes with his usual aesthetic, I'm with it as well. And it's cool because he's really, really, really prominent within the Florida scene. And it's cool because he also allows himself to, go into lanes that not a lot of the other people could go into. Example, you had mentioned screamo rap. That's an extremely hard genre to pull off.
That song with fucking Juice WRLD, I think it's called Nuketown. They went off on that, man.
It's fire as fuck. Like, take something like Catch Me Outside or like Foot Fungus. Super, super, super diverse songs. Yeah. And the traditional hip hop fan shouldn't be fucking with it. But if you are a hip hop fan, you are fucking with it. And that's what I like about it. It's diverse, it's there. And whenever you're going to go into that sort of project, all you could expect is really weird and quirky flows and really weird and quirky production. But let's actually move on to Pusha T, because this man has to drop. We haven't gotten a title yet, and I don't think we're going to get a title or an album cover until like a week until it's released.
Yeah, most likely.
But he has been silent since 2018, and apparently he has been cooking up some fucking shit. And he has been able to get into the studio with Pharrell. Apparently Kanye's working on this.
Kanye and Pharrell are the only people touching the production, which gets me so excited because if you look at the two, let's say, stages of Pusha T's career, with Clips, of course, the Neptunes, created that entire sound for those albums. And then you had Kanye, who came into his solo stuff. So to see, let's say, the two people that understand Pusha T's vocals the most to exec produce this album, it's going to be fantastic. And, he said that this album is going to be only 12 songs, which is a perfect amount for a track list. And not only that, but he is saying that this is going to be the best rap album of 2021. And I love that confidence because he's applying the pressure on himself after releasing an amazing masterpiece such as Daytona. So do you think that he could truly have the best album of the year?
I do think so. Daytona's in my top 3. Probably depends the given day, but maybe even one. Obviously I probably put Swimming in 2018 over it for me. And but as far as replay value goes, like, Daytona's a timeless classic, and it's only been out for 3 years now. So it's cool to see where he's at with things and how he's moving. But what's cool about Pusha projects is that they're always refreshing, and it's very reliant on the production in the album. Like, you're obviously gonna get it. When I went into Daytona, I felt like I was watching Scarface. Like, that's how I low-key felt while I was watching it. Like, I felt like everything was set up in, this huge fucking grand cinematic value, and I feel like I was watching a movie when I was going throughout the whole project. This, on the other hand, I feel as if it may be a bit different. I think, like, especially that you're adding a whole 5 other tracks upon the 7 that were on Daytona, you're obviously going to have more substance to the album, so I do believe that it may be even a better track list, because the 7 was really well done. But it's not like he went from 7 to 20. He's going 7 to 12. 12 is still a really great track list length.
That's actually the sweet spot for me. I feel like between, let's say, 10 and 13
I'm
tracks.
a 10. I like 10.
10, yeah.
10's a good listen.
Yeah, 10 to 13 is always perfect for me. And, just speaking of that track list, I feel like Pusha T is an artist where I don't even need features. If I'm being totally honest with you, I might prefer to have no features at all on this.
You don't think so?
Because, if I'm looking at my favorite tracks off of Daytona, for example, let's say the Games We Play or Comeback Baby, there's no features on it.
I'd love to see a Rick Ross feature on that,
it's not to say I didn't like Rick Ross and Kanye's contributions to it, but I just feel like Pusha T doesn't need that. Like, he can really carry his own for an entire track list. And
I do agree with you. I do agree with you that he could carry that track list on his own, but I also do think that his track lists are also carry great features. I mean, like, if you look at something like Nostalgia, like, that Kendrick feature is goated. If you look at something like, Rick Ross on Santeria, like, for me, that verse was fucking fantastic.
He wasn't on Santeria. He was on.
Let me pull this up. My bad.
Yeah, it was a different track, but that definitely.
You caught me slipping. Hold up. Let me put this up.
His collabs are always phenomenal. Every album of his has had a collab. So
Hard Piano. My bad.
Hard Piano. That's what it was. Yeah. Honestly, that was one of your favorite tracks off the album. That was my least favorite track off Daytona.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just feel like every other track is superior. But speaking about Pusha T, what I love about his projects is that, and also his career, is the fact that he's been rapping about the exact same subject matter for over 2 decades.
But he
keeps it refreshing, man.
Does.
He changes it up. He's able to keep you engaged for an entire track list while rapping about the shit he's rapped about countless times before. And it's amazing.
And there's not a lot of storytelling within his music as well. Like, it's a lot of punchlines and it's a lot of, I would say, like,
drug metaphors
and like braggadocious
what
bars as well.
What sells me is his conviction. The way he delivers his bars.
Delivery is...
It's the best in the game, man.
Best in the game?
Right now, yeah.
Really?
I wouldn't put anybody else's delivery above his.
Who would you put in that contention, though? Because there's definitely people in that league. Well, I'm not putting Pusha T clear of everyone. I'm not putting Pusha T clear of everyone.
Black Thought's in there for delivery.
Okay, we're going like that then? Okay, then I'd put a couple of guys in that conversation then.
Black Thought's in there for delivery. Apart from that, who else do you have?
Freddie Gibbs' delivery.
Gibbs' delivery is good. It's not Pusha level. It's good.
It's not Pusha level. I feel as if Pusha just has that silky smooth sort of delivery that goes on any sort of classic or soul sample. But another guy maybe put in there is Kendrick. I love Kendrick's delivery, like, especially how he could change the deliveries and how unique he is with it. So I do think that there are people in that name, but what you could expect out of this album is probably the same braggadocious coke bars, which I'm super down for because they always sound diverse. Amazing production from Pharrell and Kanye West, a super focused track list, and probably a couple of features that are going to be super well calculated and that are in his lane. But before we move on to the next album, what would you want to see on that feature list? Because you said that you're not really keen on him having features because you think he could carry the whole track list, but that's probably not going to be the case. So if you had to choose, what would be your features?
Definitely another whole feature. After Drug Dealers Anonymous, we saw what they were able to do.
Fire.
Apart from that, I'd love to see maybe some people to come in and do some hooks. Maybe someone like Black could be a really interesting change for Pusha T. Apart from that, maybe some Anderson .Paak.
Anderson .Paak would be great as well.
Yeah, for more of a soulful song.
BJ the Chicago Kid as well.
Yes, sir.
BJ the Chicago Kid is really underrated. That's crazy. I feel like Schoolboy Q. You just throw a lot of these great rappers in there, and they'd probably make magic. Freddie Gibbs, but regardless, I think it's gonna be fucking great. And at this point in time, I do think he still has the number one spot in the coke rap lane. But let's move on to something completely different, and that is going to be Travis Scott's Utopia. We've done a video on this, and we've covered quite a bit on this. But the narrative here is like, when do you think he's going to drop it? Because there's a lot of encrypted messages on his social media. There's a lot of stories he's talking about, this is going to be fucking fantastic. Like, this is going to be out of this world. So what are your expectations at the moment?
Yeah, so in terms of a release date, I feel like he's definitely going to come before the Astroworld Fest, which is slated for November. He definitely is going to want to have new music to perform there. And I feel like, is he at Rolling Loud? I feel like he is at Rolling Loud too.
He is at Rolling Loud.
So maybe the album comes before July.
I'm going to check that, by the way. Keep going.
If I'm guessing, I'm going to go with around the end of June.
You think so?
That's when I think he's going to come. And I feel like, what we saw with, let's say, The Plan off of the Tenet soundtrack is that Travis is really going for the cinematic sound where, his auto-tune ballads kind of bleed in with the production, and we get these spacey atmospheres. Also in a song like Franchise, where a lot of people find that's one of Travis's weakest songs to date, but regardless, I feel like the aesthetic he's going into, that futuristic sound, is exactly what he needs to do, because it's somewhere that he hasn't gone into before. And Travis is all about innovating, right?
That is true. And by the way, he's headlining Rolling Loud on the Saturday. Go. Yeah, he's July 24th. Whoever wants to go to
That's
Miami.
That's going to be a crazy fucking show.
It is. There's a lot of great people on there. But this is the situation with Utopia for me. Again, I think it's going to be another thing like CLB where people have too many high expectations. And I mean, coming off of Astroworld, there's that I feel as if will maybe be the peak of his career as far as like commercial success and album quality goes.
Really?
Like,
you think it's downhill from here on out?
I don't think it's downhill. I think it's different. I think it's going to be a case where like he drops his Yeezus. Like he's going to be dropping insane quality. It's still going to be fucking great and fantastic, but I think it's just going to be received differently. And then after that, it's also going to be a bit more advanced than what we're hearing now, because people didn't like Franchise. One for the MIA feature. I'm not a fan of that.
I can't blame them for that one, man.
I mean, whatever. It is what it is. But regardless, I think it's going to be super, super, super futuristic in its sound, and that might turn a lot of his fan base off, because, I mean, think about Travis Scott's fan base right now. A lot of it is mainstream pop kids. I'm sorry. It is what it is.
It is a lot of teenagers and, people that either heard from him after Astroworld or through Fortnite, I mean, or through the fact of him and Kylie Jenner situation.
Absolutely. So you know what I mean? Like, that's not a problem in my eyes, because I'm going to go into this project and absolutely love it regardless, because I'm a huge Travis Scott fan.
The music speaks first, man.
The music speaks first. But I mean, a lot of these people are going to be let down because it's going to be something completely different than what they were introduced to. And you could probably guarantee that as a fact, because Travis Scott reinvents himself with every single project he releases. So people are going to have all these expectations from Astroworld, all of the you might not get that on this.
Look,
you don't know.
It doesn't matter, though. At this point, Travis hasn't fucking
definitely
missed.
Doesn't matter. It definitely doesn't.
It doesn't matter, and I feel like this is gonna be his most cinematic project, and he's making his own beats on this thing, so it's gonna be cool to see what he brings to the table with the help of Mike Dean and whoever else. And the way that he's gonna roll out this album, I feel like is gonna be super special, especially what he did with the Utopia chains. I mean, it's such a creative way to kind of announce the feature slowly of who's going to be on the album. We saw names like Roddy Ricch getting a chain. We saw Young Thug. We saw Sheck Wes. And I just feel like Travis is going to do something to shock the world like he always does. Will it be as good as Astroworld? I don't know, but I go to Travis Scott to go into a different universe.
That is
and that's
true.
Something that I'm guaranteed to get with every project of his, and I'm hyped, man.
I am hyped. The only thing I'm a bit scared about is actually that feature list. That's the only thing. I don't know how I feel about Sheck Wes, and I don't know how I feel about Roddy Ricch.
Just give me Tame Impala on the production again.
Like, I'd rather see, like, James Blake again.
Yeah.
I'd rather see Tame Impala. I'd rather see The Weeknd. I'd rather see more Don Toliver. Like, those are the types of features I'd rather see. Like, I don't know where Roddy Ricch would fit in here. Like, he's a lot more melodic. Like, he's a lot more, I would say, like, really pop
It's
on
probably
that
just
level.
a cash grab. I mean, the two of them kind of combining together.
It would be a huge market. And listen, go get your fucking bag. Like, that's none of my
if we
business.
get a quality song out of it, I'm all for it.
Maybe that's like the next sicko mode is between Travis and Roddy. Like, that's a very big possibility. But just whatever. I trust Travis. Whatever. Let's get on to the next one.
Speaking of another huge artist, we won't spend too much time on this one because we've covered it a lot and there's no real announcement yet. But Kendrick Lamar is the last of the big three who's yet to announce an album in 2021. And I feel like he's the artist that people are waiting for the most.
It is.
It's Kendrick because, I mean, the guy's gone 4 for 4. At this point, it's mind-blowing that almost all of his albums will probably go down as classic albums and as some of the best hip-hop albums of all time. And he's reaching a point where he has to keep up with himself. He's competing with nobody but himself.
That is true. And again, I think it's going to be a similar situation with Travis and Drake. People are just going to have way too many high of expectations, and then that's what happens. That's when I feel as if the reception with the music is lost. When people go in with these crazy expectations and like they actually don't appreciate what they've received. Why doesn't this sound like GKMC? Why doesn't this sound like Timber Butterfly? Oh, I like this off Damn. You're gonna get a completely different project, and that's a lot of the gripes I don't like with people. Is like, they go into an album and they want an exact replica of GKMC, and if they end up getting an exact replica of GKMC, his sound is getting boring.
But if you're a Kendrick fan, that's an idiotic like mindset to have, because Kendrick's all about changing it up for every album and reinventing himself and bringing in different sounds, like he did with T-Pab, influencing, bringing in that jazz and blending it into the hip hop.
And the live instrumentals.
The live instrumentals were phenomenal.
I hope he brings that back though. I do think The Pimp a Butterfly was probably, in my opinion, his best produced album.
I agree with that.
I as far as all the live instrumentals go, and just the way all the sequencing was done, and the skits between songs and everything, I think that was one of the most focused track lists I've ever heard of all time. It's definitely one of my favorite listens from first to last. And I mean, you go to something like Damn, you look at the way that was sequenced and how it was kind of in reverse, and how the story actually ended up, being this grand scheme of his life and him getting really personal on a soulful level. Maybe we could expect that. And we did talk about the alter ego. We talked about the possibility of him, maybe going in and talking about shit that he feels like he has on his chest.
Yeah. But you know what I don't like is the idea that some fans have that Kendrick only makes masterpieces when he raps about personal trauma. And yes, that has been kind of a recurring theme, let's say, in all his projects, where he talks about his pain. Yeah, but I feel like he doesn't have to be reliant on that to make a good album. And I feel like if he dives into that alter ego, that's the perfect showcase that Kendrick can make a masterpiece out of whatever he wants to.
That is very true. And Kendrick's situation is different because you don't know what you're gonna get with it. Like we did an everything you know. Low-key, we know fuck all. I mean, we're gonna go into this Kendrick project and we're gonna be completely mind blown. I mean, it's all speculation at this point, and obviously, you could hear leaks, you could hear snippets, you could hear rumbles, there's journalists talking, but at the end of the day, you're gonna go into that project and you're gonna be absolutely fucking mind blown.
I just hope that TDE lets the other artists roll out first, because I mean, there's some guys that are due before Kendrick. I feel like Absol's one of them. SZA is also another artist who, I mean, we haven't heard from her in a while, and I feel like new music from her is needed. So after we get a couple of those rollouts, maybe we'll get Kendrick, let's say, towards the end of the summer or in the fall time.
Yeah, and I hope he does, because that would be fucking crazy.
Yeah, that'd be an amazing year. Let's move on to another album on this list, and it's something that we spoke about recently, so we won't cover too much on it, but it's A$AP Rocky's All Smiles. Yeah. And this is an album that is coming at a time where, Rocky is kind of maybe at a crossroads, because he tried experimenting with testing. The reception wasn't great at first, but I feel like fans have warmed up to it. Even though it was kind of his lowest selling album, I feel like it was him really trying something new.
Pushing the boundaries
of his sound too, for sure.
It was something that I never heard before, and that's what I enjoyed about it, was that it was something completely far off from what he was putting out in his discography. And I mean, again, start to finish, I enjoyed testing, and I went to the testing tour, and I ended up watching that show.
You did go. That's facts.
Fantastic set, great performer. I love the type of visuals that he puts in, and I had mentioned that. But what's good about A$AP Rocky is that he necessarily doesn't have the pressure that the other big dogs do, because he kind of, now more than ever, he hasn't released in a while as well. Testing kind of like not threw him off the mainstream set of like being in like that, the Drake, Kendrick, J.Cole conversation, but he's really on his own vibe. And as far as experimental hip hop goes and psychedelic hip hop goes,
he's at the forefront of it, along with Travis Scott.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think Travis Scott's sound is getting more mainstream. Like, I really won't put it in that genre anymore.
Still experimental right now.
It is experimental, but not as much as Rocky. Like, Rocky's sound is really, really, really fucking diverse.
And do you feel like he might make some music with Rihanna? Like, do you think that that's maybe...
I'd be super fucking
I'd be down for that. That sounds like an interesting collaboration. Something else I'd want to see is... I know it's a bit touchy, but if he wants to get into it, I'd be all ears, is him kind of diving into the whole Sweden situation.
That would be cool too.
You know what I mean? Because yes, we've gotten introspective tracks from Rocky, but for him to kind of break that down in a storytelling track would be mind-blowing, and it would kind of be a career first for him to really get that detailed about a specific event in his life that was publicized already. So why not kind of give us your take on it?
The only reason why I would say no is because maybe he's just like moved past it and he doesn't really want to dive into it.
True.
It's happened a couple. How long is that? It was 2 years ago.
I think it was, it was 2019, I think.
Maybe around there.
Along those lines.
Regardless, I mean, you could go into this project and you could expect a bunch of different sounds. And what's the one thing I would say you have to look for in a Rocky project? Just catch the vibe. Catch the vibe, and I promise you'll be locked in throughout the whole track list.
I really want that OG sound, man. That level of ASAP, those chopped and screwed instrumentals where the beats are super like slowed down and Rocky just has that,
the reverbs on his voice, and the way that he's able to set up that sound and that vibe, and just the whole room gets mellowed out whenever an ASAP Rocky record gets played. But fuck it, I'm super down, man.
Let's go on to someone now who we haven't spoken about in a while, but I feel like is probably in both of our top 10 lists of current artists out right now, and that's Jid, who is going to be coming with the Forever Story. And we already got a song from him this year, which was Skiji, which was an amazing song where he tackled kind of the experiments that were taking place in the States with African Americans and kind of how they were treated like guinea pigs. And it was very different from Jid to dive into that sort of subject matter. And it makes me wonder if that's kind of going to be the theme of the album.
I don't know. I think it was just a single. I think it was
just a single.
I think it was to keep people tied into it. But it was definitely a very, 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 very interesting song.
Like, it was powerful, man.
It was extremely powerful, and that's what I like to see from him. He definitely has a lot of a huge voice and a huge platform to use. And I mean, whatever way he wants to use it is up to him. But it's always cool to see him coming out and really talk about stuff that is not. It matters. It has historical value to it. Like, you're going into this track and like you're gaining knowledge. That's what's cool about it. But what do I think is going to happen on the Forever Story? I think it's going to be him really coming into his own as an artist. I mean, if you go back to the Never Story and then after that DiCaprio 2, and we had talked about this on several occasions, how the Never Story was a bit more cinematic and it had more of a concept to it. It was it had more of a thematic base to it, and then DiCaprio 2 was more of him showcasing his skills as a rapper, his more getting more into his how could I say it? Not commercial bag, but trying to really, tap in and resonate and infiltrate the hip hop scene and really get his name out there. I want to see a mix of that now on this next project. And if that means him having to get a bit more personal in his track list and, still while keeping a theme and doing that sort of stuff, he could do whatever the fuck he wants. He's Jid. He's J.I.D. He could go onto a track and rap about absolutely nothing but spit these flows that, get you and just you're locked in and you don't even understand what the fuck's going on.
Honestly, I feel like he probably has the best flowability in the game right now. The way that he transitions so seamlessly from one flow to the next multiple times in a song is fucking incredible, man.
Well, take something like 151 Rum and take something like Working Out, same track list, two completely different fucking songs and styles. I mean, that's what gets me with him is like he's able to just transition from one sound to another, and yet it still feels like you're listening to Jid.
And one complaint that people have is that like maybe his storytelling isn't like kind of fully fleshed out, and that's something that he apparently was working on with J.Cole. So I'm down to see that kind of come into light on the new album. And even more than that, when I'm thinking about kind of what the concept could be for the Forever Story, I think back to the Never Story, and that album was kind of about how he was someone who grew up, kind of with a rough upbringing, but he made something out of nothing. He's someone that should have never blown up, but he set out that path for himself and he made it work. So the Forever Story is going to be maybe more legacy based about how he plans to be in the game forever and how his music is going to keep elevating and he's going to keep progressing in the game. So that's kind of my take on where the album can go. And I mean, we're seeing Jid kind of tap in with so many different sounds. I mean, he was just on a Dua Lipa album, so it's amazing to see him kind of get noticed by people all over the music industry.
And he was in the studio with Rico Nasty as well. I saw those IG stories, and I mean, fuck it, get me both of those features on there, and I'll probably be extremely happy. Like, it's cool because he's dove into so many different lanes, and again, what a lot of the artists that at least we like to talk about on the show, that diversity matters because
it does.
If you're not diverse with your product and you don't switch it up, like it becomes redundant, it becomes boring. Like that's how I feel as if your music becomes stale. It's just you're gonna try and push that same product that's outdated from a couple of years ago, or your fan base has already gotten that product.
And his singing is underrated, man. If you look at songs like All Bad or Hereditary, I mean, the neo soul flavor that he brings to those tracks it's fucking phenomenal,
And his
man.
melodies and harmonies.
His
are
harmonies are great.
and super on point, and mix that in with his cold flows and what he could do on a track with his lyricism, it could be some really nasty
Give me
stuff.
some Jid and Mariba, give me some Jid and Black, man. I'm all here for that kind of more melodic stuff.
Did you hear about how they actually handled the Spillage Village sessions, about what they ended up doing? They ended up don't confirm me on this story, but apparently what I had seen from stories and from interviews, they had got locked into a chalet and a country home. And basically what had happened is that they ended up all being together as soon as coronavirus hit, so they had no choice but to stay together and record music. So hopefully we get some material from that and see how that affects the whole sound and shape of the album. But let's move on to something else. And this is going to be our first Posthumous album on the list. And this is confirmed to drop. It is Pop Smoke's Posthumous album, his second one. So how do you feel this is going to change from the first one, and how did you actually enjoy the first one now that it's been out for some time?
I absolutely love the first one, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon. I mean, it just gave us more proof, I would say, that Pop Smoke was really that forefront leader of New York drill, and that he was really a part of a big movement, and a movement that maybe now won't take off the same way that it would have been if he was still around.
That's true.
And what's crazy too is that, you know, we're seeing people have careers off of being Pop Smoke imitators now.
That is
you
true.
have artists like, I mean, I don't mean to like bash anyone, but someone like Dusty Locane, who is kind of very similar in sound to Pop Smoke, let's say. And I'm not saying the music's bad. It's just Pop Smoke set out a blueprint for New York drill, and it's going to be very hard for any artist who wants to pop off in that lane to not grab from him stylistically, because he is someone that's going to continue to have an influence, I think, on the entire New York sound. And that's something that we saw on both Meet the Woos and on Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon. But do you feel like it's coming down to a point where they're just kind of juicing these albums and trying to like make a quick cash grab, or do you feel like Pop Smoke would have wanted his fans to hear all this music?
Pop Smoke would have definitely wanted it. And I think based on how they did the last rollout, it's definitely respectable. I mean, I don't know what Pop Smoke wants personally, or like what his camp wanted, but I mean, his talent is inevitable, and he affected the whole game on such a different level. And I mean, if you look at how the drill sound is now getting, you know, pushed into so many different artists' careers, and how many people are trying to use that flow, and how many people are trying to, you know, come in on these drill beats, it's fucking incredible. And I mean, you get a whole different track list, it could do some crazy fucking damage, and that's what I want out of this. I want some Axel beats, I want some 808 mellow on this. Like, just give me that classic New York drill sound that I fuck with.
And his manager Rico Beats said that it's probably going to be coming around July, so we could expect it to be in the summer. Look, in terms of posthumous albums, for me, I feel like it's kind of an awkward situation, because obviously the fans want the music, but at the same time, it's like, what if Pop Smoke felt like those songs were meant to be in the vault? I mean, what if he thought that they weren't, you know, up to par? Or what if some of the shit was just, you know, more personal to him and he didn't want to expose it to the world? That's why I feel kind of hazy about the whole idea of posthumous albums. But I feel like if his camp wants to put it out, then it must be for a good reason, and it must be quality music. And we heard it on a song like AP, which came out this year, that, you know, he does have some slappers still in the vault. So I'm fucking hyped for this, man.
I am hyped for this too. And I mean, you go into this, you're going to be getting slappers, you're going to be getting some classic New York drill. And again, you know, the Pop Smoke's passed away, and he's still the fucking leader of his own lane, his own genre. There's still no one putting up numbers like Pop Smoke is, and that's absolutely incredible. The type of influence he has over our generation, and the way that, you know, people our age listen to music is extremely vital. And I mean, coming in and listening to that sound for the first time, I mean, I remember the first time I listened to Welcome to the Party, I was like, whoa, that's so fucking different. Where's that from? Like, I didn't even understand what I was listening to, and then it was just so catchy and so addicting that it ended up making my rotation, and then I could just go on for the amount of great Pop Smoke songs that I've got.
He gave nothing but energy, man. It was just pure fucking raw energy, and it was amazing. Let's move on to the last artist we have on this list, and we could have put in so many other artists, and we'll probably end up making a part 2 to this at some point as more albums get announced, but Freddie Gibbs' SSS album. I mean, he's coming off of one of the best albums of 2020, and just like J.Cole, I feel like he's just reaching his prime right now, and the consistency has to be fucking admired, man.
It does. But I do think that consistency is due to the types of producers he works with. That too is like, you don't have Madlib or you don't have The Alchemist, what type of projects are those, and what type of sort of aesthetics are you getting? Like, that's not necessarily what's scaring me about this next solo album, but I don't think that it'll necessarily be on par with, let's say, something like
Bandana or Alfredo.
exactly,
Yeah.
or even something like Pinata.
And this is the first time since like 2018 that he's actually having like a solo studio album that isn't a collab with a producer. And we have the likes of Madlib, of The Alchemist, of Pharrell, of Hit Boy, of some of the biggest producers in the game. So I feel like he's really getting that industry respect. People truly know that, you know, he is one of the best rappers in the game in terms of his delivery and just the way that he's able to lock into a flow. But I mean, more than that, I feel like he might evolve in the sense that his storytelling might get touched up on. He might improve on that front, and that's a big thing. So hopefully we get this in August, because if you look at the Gang Signs music video, I spoke about this already before, but on the license plate that the Rabbit's driving, you see August 2021. So that could be a potential release date, but I just hope that Freddie keeps this consistent run and keeps delivering quality, man.
And he's gonna deliver something that's gonna sound completely different than what he's done in the past.
Do you feel like he might go into a commercial bag, like something similar to, let's say, Four Things with Big Sean? Because that could be a potential lane for him to go into, and we've also seen him in the studio with Yachty and Sway Lee. So could you see him maybe steering into that lane? Because I wouldn't be in for it, personally.
It's not my career, it's his. But I mean, as far as like my taste goes with his sort of stuff, my favorite stuff is when he's working with Madlib. Like,
Yeah.
That's unprecedented stuff. You're never gonna get anything better than that. I mean, you know what we've seen out of Pinata and Bandana and the way those projects have aged. I'd rather just give me fucking Montana at this point. Fuck the solo album. Give me Montana.
Finish off the trilogy, man.
Finish off the trilogy. I don't want to wait another fucking 5 years for it, you know? So that's where I'm at with that. And that's the only thing that scares me, is he's not working with one producer. That might make the whole album sound different. But that's also a good thing, because I'm getting something different than what's been getting released for the past 2 years. So
Yeah.
who knows?
And it might be more challenging for him just because he has to adapt to different sounds and different styles from different producers. You know what I mean? So in terms of sound, we might get, you know, the classic samples from Madlib, some, you know, abstract shit there. You might get some harder hitting trap beats, let's say, from someone like Mike Will Made It. So to see him kind of bounce from one song to the next that have different styles, that would be interesting.
And what type of features would you like to see on this?
Definitely Pusha T, man.
Yeah.
Definitely Pusha T.
Imagine we sparked that whole thing.
That'd be fucking wild.
Imagine NFR podcast is the reason why Freddie Gibbs and Pusha T make an album. I'm still gonna. That's
man.
probably my favorite. Probably one of my favorite.
You gotta
moments
hold
in the
on
brand.
to that, yeah.
For sure. That
Pretty
was
crazy.
I still remember the day that went down.
And there was a
but
picture of that surfaced of him and Drake. I mean, I don't know how that would sound. Like, to be honest,
I think it would sound cool though.
Yeah, it could be cool. It could be cool.
I think just Drake's getting more in his melodic vibe right now.
That's why. So it doesn't really make sense. But yet he also has like songs with Benny the Butcher in the vault. So it'll be interesting to see. But I feel like, you know, this summer really might be something special, and it might be, you know, kind of hip hop artists giving back to the fans for, let's say, the weight they've had to endure all this time. And now that COVID is improving, people are probably, you know, really hungry to get their rollouts out and to start touring again.
Okay, so one last question before we end this off. Out of all these projects that we've chosen on this list, which one are you probably the most down to review?
To review?
Yeah,
Oh,
which
wow.
one are you down to dissect and review?
Man, that's super tough.
Because we're gonna end up doing all of these. But
Yeah,
which
100%.
Which one are you the most down for?
The most excited for? Actually, the most down to review would definitely be Pusha T.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm really in for that Pusha T album, because every time he gives us something, it's poetic drug talk. You know what I mean?
I feel you.
And I just feel like Pusha T is bringing consistent quality, and he will probably have the best production out of any other album on this list.
I would go with Kendrick stills.
Yeah, I got to hear that
I've
Kendrick album.
Fuck. This is gonna be a first time for us because we've never reviewed any of these artists. Have we? The Freddie Gibbs we've never done. Yes, we did. We did it on an audio.
We did do Freddie Gibbs.
Okay, we did
on
Alfredo.
audio.
We did Pop Smoke with Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon. We never done Jid. We never did Rocky. We never did Travis. never did Kendrick, never did Pusha, never did Ski Mask.
We never reviewed most of these artists together, man. I'm fucking down.
New content coming to NFR. But guys, listen, thank you so much for all the love and support you guys give us. It's been absolutely crazy. I mean, by the time we're recording this, we had just hit 10K, and everything you guys give us is absolutely crazy. And as we said, we are going to be reviewing all of these projects that we did mention and even more. It's about to be a great summer, guys. Stay strapped in. Thank you guys for watching the whole video. Hit that subscribe button to join the family. We're doing weekly reviews. We're giving you guys all the updates in the industry. Plus, we have our series called What to Expect, where we actually take you through the album before it drops. Plus, if you guys want to chat with us, you guys could join our Discord server. The link is in the bio. You guys could talk hip hop with us there. Thank you guys for watching again. And guys, I'll see you on the next one.